You're beautiful as you are, bright as a morning star. Your inner glow is like a rainbow. You're beautiful as you are. Mama Crow said this every day to Little Crow, but Little Crow just didn't like his feathers. "Oh, I wish I could be a peacock," he'd grumble, and then he'd go and watch the peacocks from high up in a tree. The peacock strutted about with colorful tail, feathers outstretched. When the peacocks flew away, Little Crow saw they had left some feathers on the ground. Little Crow flew down. He picked up those stray feathers and put 2 on top of his head. He stuck a few in his tail. He stuck a few in his wings, and then he went to join the peacocks in their strutting. But they poked him and pecked him. What a fuss! "You're not a peacock," they said. "Stop imitating us." Little Crow dragged those broken peacock feathers through the dust all the way home. And as he pulled those broken feathers from his wings and his tail, he took a good look at the deep, dark, rich color of his own wings. His mother saw him there and said, "Little Crow, you don't need decoration. You are a perfectly beautiful creation. Your inner glow is like a rainbow. You're beautiful as you are." Once, in a kingdom long, long ago, there lived a queen who gave birth to a son who was ugly. He was born with a little tuft of hair that stuck straight up from the top of his head, and so he was named Prince Riquet with the tuft. Now the good fairy who presided over this birth tried to console the mother, saying, "Oh, this child is unusual looking indeed, but he shall be clever and intelligent, and his life will be filled with love." Oh, if this doesn't satisfy you, I can add, whomever he should choose to marry will become as intelligent as he is. And at that moment, that good fairy had to scurry off, because there was another mother in a nearby kingdom, a queen who was giving birth at that moment to twin daughters. First tumbled into the world as beautiful as the day, and the mother rejoiced at her loveliness. The good fairy who presided over this birth said, "Oh, don't be too happy about this one. She's going to be a fool. But to console you, I shall make whomever she should choose to love as beautiful as she is." And then her twin sister was born, and this child was rather homely. The queen held up the babe and said, "Is there anything you can do for this one?" And the good fairy said, "No, my dear queen, there is nothing I need do for that daughter of yours. This second child will be clever and intelligent. She will always be surrounded by friends." Now the 3 children grew, and as they grew, their qualities became more and more pronounced with age. The moment that little Riquet with the tuft learned to speak, he said such remarkably clever things. He endeared himself to everyone. The homely princess was content as she grew, for she became more and more clever and resourceful, and she was always surrounded by friends, consulting things. Why, at all the grand and great royal affairs, at first everyone would gather about the beautiful princess to admire her fine looks. But no sooner did she open her mouth to speak, it was as though she had a frog perched on her tongue, ready to leap into the nearest ear. Oh, people would drift away from her and go seek company with her twin sister, whose conversation they would enjoy. The beautiful princess was always alone, and one day, in her loneliness, she fled from a grand affair at the palace and went into the woods to weep. And there she saw the strangest looking man she'd ever seen. He was dressed in the royal robes of a prince, and he had a tuft of hair that stuck straight up from the top of his head. He bowed low and said, "Greetings, princess. I recognize you. I've seen your portrait in all the marketplaces. I'd always longed to meet you in person, and here I come upon you in the woods weeping. Why is a woman as beautiful as you crying?" And she said, "I'm crying because I'm a fool. I would trade all of this beauty for even half the wit of my twin sister. At least she has friends. I'm so lonely. I'm always alone." "Ah," said Prince Riquet with the tuft. "So you think you're a fool and you'd like to be wise. Well, the good fairy who presided over my birth gave me the power to make whomever I should choose to wed as intelligent as I am. So you have only to agree to marry me and you would be wise." "Marry you? That's ridiculous." But then again, she said, "I'm ridiculous." There was nothing in the world she wanted more than to be clever. And so she said, she speak these words, but the good fairy's magic took hold, and suddenly she felt the power within herself to express her thoughts and her feelings. She spent the whole day in the woods with Prince Riquet with the tuft, and she had finally, at long last, tasted the glorious pleasure of interesting conversation. As the sun was setting, she returned to the palace and astonished the very first person she met by saying something clever. To another, she told a joke and made them laugh. To another, she offered a little encouragement. To another, she gave some advice. To another, well, she consoled them in their grief and sorrow. Word went through the palace. "Whoa, a remarkable remaking change has come over our princess. The pretty one. Why, she's not only beautiful now, she seems to be intelligent as well." Now at all the grand and great royal affairs, the two sisters would stand arm in arm, greeting the guests and conversing, and the beautiful princess could not have been happier. One day, she left the palace to take a walk in the woods to celebrate her newfound joy. And that's when she came upon a banquet table. There was a big round chef with a tall white hat, and he was humming as he put fresh violets on a wedding cake. "Oh, today is the wedding day of Prince Riquet with the tuft." "Pardon me, sir, but what is happening in the woods today?" And at that moment, into the clearing stepped the strangest looking man she'd ever seen. Now he was dressed in the royal wedding robes of a prince, and he had a tuft that stuck straight up from the top of his head. He bowed low and said, "Greetings, my beloved bride." "Your bride? Princess? Have you forgotten the promise you made to me?" Suddenly she realized that she had, and she said, "Oh, How can you possibly hold me to a promise I made when I had no sense at all? Now that I have sense, I wouldn't have made such a bargain." "Princess, the bargain you made, and you know that by your royal word you are bound to it." Oh, she knew this was true, and she threw herself down on the ground. She began to beat the earth and wail and moan. "Oh, my happiness is gone." "Princess, look at me. Is there anything about me? My wealth, my royal birth, my intelligence, my royal bearing that is horrible to you?" "No, there's nothing about you I find horrible, except the way you look." "Oh, that is so easy to fix. Have you forgotten? The good fairy who presided over your birth gave you the power to make whomever you should choose to love as beautiful as you are. Oh, how could that be so?" "Oh, it could be so, if only you would wish it were so." "Then I wish," she said, "with all my heart, that you were the handsomest man I'd ever seen." No sooner did she speak these words, but the good fairy's magic took hold, and suddenly, there before her, she did see the handsomest man she had ever beheld. So I do not need to tell you that she and Prince Riquet with the tuft lived happily ever after, for that is the way it is in these old tales. What I do need to tell you, however, is this. Prince Riquet with the tuft never changed a bit. What changed was the way she saw him. For isn't it magical indeed? The ones we truly love are always beautiful in our own eyes. Once, long ago, in China, there was an old farmer. He lived by the river. That's where he obtained his water. Every day, he took 2 pots, put them on the ends of a big stick, put the stick over his shoulder, and walked down the path to the river to get his water for the day. Once the pots were filled, he would put them back on his shoulder and trudge back up the road to his farmhouse. Now one day, when he was emptying the pots into his cistern, one of the pots spoke. It said, "Oh, dear farmer, I'm so sorry that I have not served you well." "My dear pot," replied the farmer, "you've served me very well. Day after day I carry you to the river, and I fill you with water, and I walk you back to my farmhouse and empty what you've carried into my cistern. You have served me very well. Why would you wonder that you have not?" And the pot replied, "Well, I have a crack, and as you carry the water back up the road, much of what I'm carrying drips out onto the path alongside the road where you walk. All of that effort, and you come home with only half a pot of water. My partner pot is always full. I am so sorry that I haven't served you well." The farmer had to laugh and said, "My friend, I will take you to see why you have served me very well indeed." And the farmer walked down the road with that pot and admired all the flowers that were growing along the side of the path, where over the years the drip drip, drip that came from that pot had watered the ground. You see, my friend, your crack has provided me with years of beauty. I've admired these flowers every year as I walk to the river and back up again. They only appear on the side of the path where you, my friend, have watered them.